My next story, guys, it's going to be a doozy. So let me just preface and give all the content warnings because it definitely involves people being killed by the state whilst in state custody. And this continues to happen, and it really continues to happen across the country. Seriously, if you guys pay attention to your local news, you will hear it, and it'll be reported very casually. You know, so and so county is reporting a death, in jail of an inmate. No autopsy has been performed yet, and police are not saying much. But the 30-something-year-old male usually was found unresponsive in their cell. Like, it's a very pat response when mainstream media outlets are covering deaths in custody. And it is a sad reality that far too many folks in this country have been accustomed to hearing. It's, we hear it, and a lot of times it doesn't even register. And to be honest, we don't even know how many people die in jails every single year because the federal government does not collect this information. And depending on the jurisdiction, they may or may not be publicly reporting this information, whether or not in custody deaths are reported at all, right? Fulton County in Georgia, the Fulton County Jail has been notorious, dare I say, always, right? But there has been a number of stories to come out of there over the past year that indicate that the conditions there are inhumane, that they are deplorable, that people literally are not surviving these conditions, including the story of a young man who was literally eaten alive by bed bugs while being incarcerated in Fulton County. And, there was a story to come out over the weekend, tragically detailing another person who has passed away. Okay. And I want us to take a look at this package. This package is coming from 13 WMAZ News. Okay. And we're talking about a young person who was experiencing a mental health crisis, who was being initially held without bond, but it turns out they eventually did receive a bond, but their family was never notified and never given the opportunity to come get their loved one from out of the Fulton County Jail. And there's an interesting twist. Maybe interesting is not the right word, a notable twist, that this person who died actually registered a complaint about the conditions that they were being subjected to just days before they were found dead at the Fulton County Jail. So I want us to check out this package. And like I said, content warning, because some of this is not going to be easy to hear, everybody. So let's take a listen.
Court records show a 34-year-old Samuel Lawrence had been in jail here for 8 months when he died, and now his family wants answers.
I thought maybe it would be something like I left the door open at the house or something like that. That's what I was looking to hear, but it was death.
Frank Richardson says he was driving to church in Athens on Sunday when he got the call that his son, Samuel Lawrence, had died in custody at the Fulton County Jail on Saturday.
So what I did, pull aside the road and started crying.
Lawrence had been in custody for a single second-degree arson charge since last December. Fulton County court records show a judge denied him bond after his arrest, citing a likelihood to reoffend and a criminal history.
He was just bipolar. But that's beside, he's still a human being.
Court records show after 109 days without being indicted, Lawrence's public defender was able to get a $30,000 bond granted in April. Lawrence's dad says they had no idea. So did you know that there was a bond for him?
No, I didn't know. I never knew.
Earlier this month, his attorney filed for a reduced bond, and a hearing was scheduled for next month. When Lawrence died, he still hadn't been indicted. According to the Fulton County Sheriff's Office, Lawrence was found unresponsive in his cell Saturday, and he died at Grady Hospital. His uncle Eugene Hall Jr. says Lawrence filed a federal civil rights complaint against the Fulton County Jail days before he died. In the complaint, Lawrence claims deputies used excessive force on him, including while he was in handcuffs.
The officers, that they starved loved him, that they didn't give him the medicine that he was asking for. He was crying out for help and never received it. They turned deaf eye, deaf ear, all towards Samuel.
So far, the sheriff's office hasn't commented on Lawrence's complaint.
There's no justice, there's no peace. We looking for justice for Samuel Lawrence.
I want his justice done right.
The Fulton County Sheriff's Office tells us Atlanta police will investigate the in-custody death, while the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office is performing an autopsy to determine how Lawrence died. Reporting from the Fulton County Jail in Atlanta, I'm Tracy A. McPeer.
13 WMAZ News there with the package. I actually thought that that was pretty well done. I appreciate hearing the voices directly of Samuel Lawrence's family members, especially his father and his uncle there as well. Tracy Grenville, thank you so much for your super chat. Tracy says ACAB, yup, all cops are bastards, all COs are bastards. And, you know, we can do the autopsy. We can try to figure out what happened to Samuel. We know exactly what the fuck happened to Samuel. Samuel was a victim of brutality and neglect. His medical needs were not being met while he was in the custody of the state, who is charged at minimum with keeping him alive. They need to be keeping him alive, keeping him in good health. If he's being denied food and medicine, that sounds like torture. That sounds like the conditions for depraved indifference to some sort of murder or manslaughter. That is absolutely horrific. And we're talking about the 16th such death in a year. I believe that Samuel Lawrence is the 8th or 9th person to die in the Fulton County Jail this year in 2023, but over the past 12 months, we're talking about 16 persons total. Well, actually, let me even rephrase about that, because no information released through the state can be trusted, right? So it's 16 that they're willing to admit to. My guess is that there's probably more. And it's not just Fulton County Jail. It's Rikers Island. It's the Fairfax County Detention Center. It's the DC City Jail. It's the Los Angeles County Jail. Like, this is a nationwide systemic problem where I believe that inmates are being murdered, either with intentional actions or through neglectful indifference about the conditions that they're being subjected to. But it's murder, right? It is a crime. It is a criminal. It is a violation of human rights. It's a violation of civil rights. But because we're talking about people behind the wall, once they have been put in the criminal injustice system, in the wider viewpoint of mainstream America, these people are no longer human. Do you guys recall, was it last week when we were talking about the dozens of cases that have been dismissed in Shelby County out there in Memphis, connected to those 5 killer cops who murdered Tyree Nichols? And the fucking anchor man got on TV with a straight fucking face talking about some bad guys are being put back on the streets because of these rogue cops. It's like, bad guys. You're talking about people that haven't been to court? People who haven't had their charges adjudicated by a judge or a jury? Oh, bad guys, huh? And I feel terrible for Samuel Lawrence and his family. He was somebody, per his father, experiencing a mental health condition. He was bipolar. I don't know the circumstances in which Samuel was charged with second-degree arson, but clearly I am not well apprised of how the judicial system works in Georgia. I don't see how the fuck you can be in jail for 8 months with no indictment. So what does that mean? The police simply charged him. He was arrested and then placed in jail. And then what? We're waiting for an indictment coming down from a grand jury? 8 months? The better part of a year? And for his public defender to be able to secure a bond for him, but yet his loved ones weren't made aware of that. So he could have been potentially rescued, bonded out, but didn't nobody say nothing? Why? Does Fulton County Jail get money for keeping inmates locked up? Pfft. You guys know the answer to that. I want us to go to St. Louis because there has been another death reported in jail. Brendan L. Yeah, I'm calling you by your government. Brendan L. Thank you so much for your Cash App support. We certainly appreciate that. St. Louis is a place that I know pretty well. Like I lived there for a stretch. Um, I adore Black Missourians. I did not adore Missouri. Okay, the racism is palpable. Not to say that Maryland's not racist. It's racist in a different way. The way you feel racism in St. Louis and in Missouri, it hit different. It hit different, especially if you're not from there. I said, oh shit, this is bad and terrible. But yes, the St. Louis police, a notorious band of thugs. And I can imagine that those who are tasked with keeping folks locked up at the St. Louis City Jail, equal band of thugs. And I want us to pick up the story. Let's see. I have a package there, Will. Let's cue up the package. And I believe this is from Fox 2 News because at the St. Louis City Jail, they experienced the second death in as many weeks. 2 deaths in 2 weeks. Two deaths in 2 weeks. Two. And this is in the face of the commissioner of the St. Louis City Jail, who was appointed by the Black woman mayor, Mayor Tashana Jones, appointed this city commissioner, this commissioner of the St. Louis City Jail over 2 years ago under the promises of reform and improved conditions. Yet activists say ain't shit improved, ain't shit been reformed, ain't nothing no better. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. I want us to take a look at this package because what is happening in St. Louis City jails is abhorrent. And there is a jail oversight committee made up of civilians that is tasked to receive complaints, hear complaints, and to be made aware of the conditions and other goings-ons happening within the jail. But you all might be shocked in a very non-shocked, sarcastic way. You all might be shocked to find out that the oversight board is not being kept in the loop about injuries and now most recently these deaths that have occurred inside of the St. Louis City Jail. I want us to pick up the story. This is coming from Fox 2 News. I was shocked because but St. Louis mainstream media is not good. That's why we're actually going to hear a package, or I'm not a package per se, but there's an article from an independent media source out there that I trust. The Riverfront Times does a very good job of covering the streets of St. Louis, and I appreciate their reporting on this issue, which I'm going to get to here very shortly. Oh shit! Thank you, Quaker Socialist, Quaker Anarchist. Thank you so much for your support. I certainly appreciate it. Will, let's go to the Fox 2 package where you guys are going to hear from, I believe, either one of the members of the jail oversight board or the chair himself. So let's pick it up from there.
We've confirmed St. Louis police and the medical examiner's office are investigating the inmate death Sunday of 32-year-old Carlton Bernard. His mother says she's struggling to get answers, and the chairman of the jail oversight board is shocked he had to learn about it from me.
It is alarming.
Reverend Daryl Gray is chairman of the Detention Facility Oversight Board.
We can't even find out that someone has died in their custody.
Court records show Bernard has been locked up since June on an assault charge. His mother hired Clayton attorney Mark Pedroli, who told us 32 years old is far too young to die in the custody of the government. Like all in-custody deaths deserve, Mr. Bernard's death will be investigated vigorously by my law firm. Bernard died 2 days prior to Tuesday's hostage crisis. A 73-year-old corrections officer was rescued by SWAT after a 2-hour standoff. Jail officials said the attacking inmates are known troublemakers.
The only demand that I actually heard on the radio was for pizza.
Former inmate James Reisner says he noticed the jail become more dangerous as staffing dropped.
There's been times where I've been here where when it first opened, where there was 2 staff to every unit. Now it's just 1.
He says that causes a ripple of problems.
The inmates now don't have no respect for the guards, and the guards they don't like their jobs, so they're not really trying to do their jobs. You know, they let a lot of stuff pass them. You know, they act like they don't see a lot of stuff.
Reisner said it's also common for inmates to find out about violence and deaths through the rumor mill rather than from officials. Reverend Gray says those officials need to be more open, especially with Gray's board tasked with oversight.
Definitely, we should have been informed. The same way we should have been informed yesterday about a hostage situation.
How'd you find out about that?
Through the media. You're doing your job. We're asking the commissioner to do her job.
He pointed out a portion of Tuesday's Zoom when the commissioner claimed jail improvements since the 2021 riots.
If you notice, for record, it has been over a couple years since anything has occurred here.
That statement made as Fox 2 was still working on confirming Sunday's jail death. Gray says the Oversight Board should have already been notified in order to begin its inquiry.
We have qualified staff as part of the Oversight Board. We're not talking simply 9 civilians. We're also talking about at least a half a dozen staff who have been hired by the city of St. Louis to do this job.
For the Fox Files, I'm Chris Hayes.
Yeah, that's from Fox 2 News out there in St. Louis. What a story. And woo, that was whoa. There's a lot there. First of all, our condolences to the young man who lost his life there, 32 years old, 32 years old. There ain't no fucking way that a 32-year-old died from any sort of natural causes in that jail. So we can dead all that speculation right now. Okay. I hope that the young man's family attorney gets to the bottom of the shit. And there is that. But in terms of what was set forth regarding staffing shortages at the jail, and for the speaker there to say that the correctional officers let a lot of shit go, they overlook a lot of shit. What are we overlooking here? Starvation? Did you hear what the city commissioner said? That woman, Jennifer Clemens Abdullah, I think she said that the demand that were being made by the hostage situation, Jesus, we didn't even touch on the hostage situation at the jail, where a 73-year-old correctional officer was being, nigga, what is you doing still working the jails at 73? The staffing shortages are that terrible, huh? That y'all keeping Pop on the job by his Jesus. But for her to say with a straight face that, well, and for the reporter to repeat this, where he was at, according to jail officials, the people who, held the correctional officer hostage were known troublemakers. Known to who? According to these lying ass motherfuckers from the jail? And for the commissioner to be like, oh, well, the only demand I'm aware that they made was for pizza. Well, that tells me that they're fucking hungry. Like, are we being serious? If these incarcerated folks are willing to subject themselves to potentially more time, harsher treatment by the COs inside because they dared make this, I can't even call it a violent stand. I don't know what the fuck happened. Doesn't sound like the 73-year-old CO was injured or harmed, because they would have mentioned that. But if their quote only demand is pizza, what kind of food are they being fed, if any? What is their overall condition? If they're sick, are they being tended to? Doesn't sound like it, because the jail is short-staffed. So the COs are overlooking a lot of shit. What, like human rights? Like what are we really saying here? What are we really saying? Will, if you could cue up that clip from the Riverfront Times, because activists in St. Louis are on it. Let me give all the credit to people on the ground in St. Louis. St. Louis is one of those towns where they are about it, right? Before Ferguson and since Ferguson, the people of St. Louis and St. Louis County, because The St. Louis metro area is an interesting one because you have St. Louis City proper, and then you have all of these smaller, teeny tiny towns that ring the city, right? And on the north side of St. Louis County is where the black folks live. Ferguson, Jennings. You know what I'm saying? What's some other black areas up there? Up St. Charles Rock Road. Go up the Rock Road, and you'll run into a lot of black areas, right? Um, but activists held a rally outside of the Justice Center. Woo! That is misnamed. that is deeply misnamed. So I want us to hear from the folks that put together a rally outside of the jail after this latest inmate death. But when we come back from this package, you guys are going to be blown away by what I tell you happened on the inside to one of the members of that jail oversight board. Not that gentleman, but a different member of the jail oversight board experienced some harsh treatment when they merely asked the question. But first, let's take a look at what the activists were doing outside.
Safety needs to hold him self-accountable for the conditions inside of this jail. Every single member of the Board of Aldermen who was not standing out here with us, demanding answers, demanding not just transparency, but radical transparency. I remember when this administration was running, and they said, we're going to be transparent. We are going to change the culture of this city. We are going to change the culture of the police department. We are going to change the culture inside of jails. We are going to re-envision public safety. And here we are, 2 years later, and it might as well be lighter. But that's still in charge. It might as well be Francis Clay that is still in charge. It might as well be Vince Small that is still in charge. Because I haven't seen a single change. Not in the police department, not in public safety, not in this jail. And while I'm here, let me go and mention the Detention Facilities Oversight Board. We literally organized and rallied and cried out and called alders, and we said we demand oversight of these jails because, again, we are all better than the worst thing we have ever done. We said we demand transparency and accountability, and what has happened? Not only has the warden stood in the way of every effort of transparency, the director of public safety has done the same, and I have yet to see a statement from the mayor of St. Louis offering any type of transparency or accountability. So we're going to continue to be here saying no more, not one more death, fire the warning, no more jail death until they decide to make change. And we're not asking, we're demanding, right?
That clip there, shot and reported on from the Riverfront Times, RFT. If you're not following the Riverfront Times on social media, please do so. They do a really good job of covering St. Louis culturally and the arts sector there in St. Louis, but they do a good job of reporting on social justice issues as well. And speaking of, Will, if you could cue up that Riverfront Times article for me, please, because that was happening on the outside where the activists were demanding transparency and accountability. They're not asking, they were demanding for transparency and accountability. And on the inside, that same night, the headline reads, Jail Oversight Board member arrested after asking about detainee death. And you see the picture there of a black gentleman, a black person, lumped up, a little scuffed and scratched. And Bagheera is very upset about the situation. I totally understand. So hold on, let me get to the meat and potatoes of it because it's actually a pretty stunning account. And the person's name is Janice, Janis Mensa, Mensa, A.H. Janice Mensah took this photo at the hospital shortly after being forcibly removed from the Justice Center. It says the chair of St. Louis's Jail Oversight Board was forcibly removed from the Justice Center last night after the leaders of the facility refused to answer his questions, or rather their questions, about the most recent death there. It says Janice Mensah says that when the board members first heard of the detainee death, which is the second in 2 weeks, they went to the jail to try to learn more. And it goes on to say, it says, Mensah chairs the city's Detention Facility Oversight Board, the chair of the board, which is a group of civilians that is tasked with investigating problems at the jail. So this is what happened when Mensah went inside. Quote, he said, or rather they, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to not get the pronouns right. But they said, quote, I didn't go there planning to stay, says Mensah. I just asked them a few questions and they ignored me, end quote. Mensah then sat in the lobby, which was around, and Mensah sat in the lobby, and it says around 9 p.m., jail staffers called the police. I'm sorry, called the police for what? Quote, they pulled me off the bench pretty forcibly, says Mensah. They said, stop resisting, but I wasn't moving at all. The article goes on to say, it says this morning, Mensah says that that their face still hurts from being thrown to the ground right there in the jail lobby. Quote, they never read me my rights or at any point in the night. He said, I can't tell you if I was even arrested. I said, I can't tell you if I was arrested or caught and released or whatever, or what even happened, Mensah says. Did I mention y'all this is the chair of the Jail Oversight Committee? It says increasing the oversight board and other jail reformers. It says increasingly the oversight board and other jail reformers have focused their ire on Mayor Tashara Jones, who appointed Jennifer Clemens Abdullah 2 years ago, which was she was a white presenting lady. I don't know if she white, maybe she married a Muslim. I don't know how she got Abdullah, but she looked white to me. But yeah, it says, quote, it says this is definitely an escalation. Oversight board member Mike Milton tells the RFT. You think? You think if the oversight board chair can't even go to the jail to ask the question, hey, you know, somebody else died here, the second death in 2 weeks. Can we find out what's going on? They said, nope, we calling the police and we're going to have your black ass forcibly removed. If the police need to throw you on the ground to get you the fuck out of this lobby, if they need to rough you up, if they need to take you to jail with no charges, if they fail to Mirandize you, that's your answer. You don't get no answers. And this is the case with far too many jails across the country, you guys. Overwhelmingly, it is black folks. Overwhelmingly, it is disabled people. Overwhelmingly, it is the most vulnerable and marginalized that are losing their lives behind the wall. And I won't say nobody cares, because clearly those people outside of the St. Louis Justice Center, they cared enough to rally. We know that there is a number of organizations that look out for incarcerated people that are being held at Rikers, you know, big up New York City, Big up to the activists in Mississippi that organize and try to help the folks locked up in prisons like such as Parchman. But this is everywhere. This is everywhere. And as much as police brutality and police violence is a problem, this violence and murder, a variation of lynching, I would say, is a systemic, massive crisis for those who end up incarcerated because they have no rights. They have no rights and nobody cares. I won't say nobody. Very few, not enough people care about the conditions that people are being subjected to. And that is how the criminal injustice system in America goes, right? It's those bad people's problem until they beating up on your 15-year-old white nephew until the police is, right? It's those criminals. They get what they get. Okay, but police lie and fabricate and make up evidence, plant evidence, are not truthful all the time. So how can we even say authoritatively that people simply because they are in jail are guilty of anything? As much as you can, what I want you to do is please do what you can to support those that are doing jail support for incarcerated people, right? But what I want you to do, I don't want you to ignore these stories, and I'm not suggesting that y'all do, but I'm just saying in the course of the news cycle, with all this fucking crazy shit going on with Trump, with all the quote unquote bigger news, don't let these stories fly under your personal radar, right? And again, the way that we can try to change hearts and minds is to convince those in our spheres, those in our circles who may not have a lot of compassion for those incarcerated. Again, the onus is on us to try to humanize these people as much as possible, to try to make those that don't view incarcerated people as worthy of having rights or having life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Like, we have to tell them just because they're in jail don't mean they did something. That just means they got arrested. As corrupt and fucked up as we know American policing is, the police cannot be trusted with their account of a given event because they'll lie. They will lie. They will make up shit. They will plant evidence. They will fabricate. They will back each other up in their lies. Like, all cops are bastards. We cannot assume that the police are a benevolent force for good, as I continue to say. And I know nobody here thinks that because I don't see how you could be here and think that. But what's our job, everybody? Our job is to tell the others. Our job is to tell the others. Okay. So, yeah. So, anyway.